This is the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we teach you the proven methods to grow your seven-figure business to 10 million and beyond. Please welcome your host, Brett Gilliland.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. As you know, I have business owners. Most weeks, I have business owners coming and sharing their real experiences, their real insights, things they've learned that have helped them to continue to grow after they've hit some of those challenging spots after getting to that initial $1 million mark in revenue. Today is no exception to that. I have a great guest. His name is Michael Zipursky. I've known Michael for a few years now, and just am super impressed by who he is as a person, but also the great things that he's done as a business owner, as a leader, to grow his business and to grow himself. I'll get into a little intro, but before I do, let me at least give you a chance to say hi, Michael. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here.
Hey, Brett, thanks for having me. Always enjoy our time together.
Yeah, and I actually recently just had Michael speaking at one of our quarterly Elite Live events, where he gave some very practical tips and insights. And it was me listening to him there that had me thinking, why haven't I had Michael on the podcast yet? So thank you for saying yes to speaking at our event and for being here again with us today.
My pleasure. Yeah, excited and looking forward to it.
All right, well, let me do some of the formal introduction. Michael is co-founder and CEO of a business called Consulting Success, where they help consultants figure out how to grow, scale profitable consulting businesses. And he actually has tens of thousands of consultants reading his weekly newsletters. He's the best when it comes to helping consultants figure out how to build a business around their expertise. He's a best-selling author. He's written a few books. He's literally helped thousands of consultants from all over the world in 75 plus industries. And they're all adding 6 and 7 figures of revenue to their consulting businesses because of what Michael and his team have done for them. So that's a little bit of the more formal introduction. Michael, anything you want to add to my attempt to sharing with people what your business is about?
I think that was great, Brett. So thank you. The big thing that you mentioned is the team, right? So that's something that I have want to give a lot of credit to, is the team that we have in place and what we've been able to create as a company. The way we're able to support our clients to achieve real results is credit to the team and the great work that they do every day.
Well, that might be the perfect segue into our conversation today, Michael, because one of the things that we find over and over as we work with 7-figure business owners is that transition from like scrappy, gritty founder entrepreneur who's involved in a lot of the day-to-day to a place of, now I've built a team and I have some trust that I can let go and actually scale this thing with the help of some very amazing and capable people at my side. That's an important transition. I don't want to put any words into your mouth, but let's just back up a little bit and say, as you were growing this business, at what point did you start to experience some of those, I guess, some growth pains once you're hitting that 7 figures? What were some of the things that were getting in your way of being able to grow further?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about over the last several years. And as we've ourselves kind of gone through that journey, the first part to me is that it didn't really show up in terms of growing pains. There was no real big problem or big issue, which is probably why it was kind of manifesting itself, or the issue or the potential issue was there for probably a lot longer than we even realized it. And because it wasn't showing up as something that was necessarily stunting our growth, or we weren't viewing it as that, we didn't necessarily take the steps to address it. So if I pull that back a little bit more, Brett, really what was going on is my cousin, who's Sam, who's a co-founder in this business, and we've built and sold different businesses over the years together. We had really set up Consulting Success for many years, where it was continuing to grow. We were working with more clients, more success, higher levels of revenue and profit, and we had a pretty small team. In many cases, these were contractors that we were working with. And we thought this is a great kind of lifestyle business. And even today, I still consider it to be a lifestyle business, because we prioritize the lifestyle for ourselves and for our team members, And even with our clients, we talk about the importance of getting clear on what you want in terms of lifestyle and then structuring your business to support that lifestyle instead of the other way around, where you have to have a kind of a business that you focus on, but now you're making all these sacrifices within your lifestyle and your relationships and family and friends, and everything else kind of takes a back seat. So for us, we really saw it as, let's build a business that supports the lifestyle that we want. But what we started to kind of run up against, if you will, or it's more that we start to see or to acknowledge, is that if we want to be able to take this to that next level, if we want to really be able to help and impact more people, we can't do that with our current model. And the current model was, where both Sam and myself were really involved in, not necessarily every aspect, but in a lot of aspects of the business and a lot of the day to day. And so when we started to kind of explore that and think about, well, our beliefs, and this, these were our own limiting beliefs, it was that if we want to grow to that next level, if we kind of remove ourselves from things by nature, the idea is like, let's create a much bigger business. It means we have to hire people. It means we have to manage more people. And to us, that initially showed up in our minds as added complexity. And we don't enjoy complexity. And so we probably backed off of that idea for a lot longer than we could have. And that belief that we had was that we should keep this lean and profitable and not hire people. What we didn't really understand is that you don't actually necessarily have to create more complexity by adding more team members. And you have, when you have the right systems and the right processes and the right people and the vision and all other stuff that I'm sure we'll talk more about, you actually remove complexity, I would say, and create significantly more possibility for significant growth by adding those things in. And our old mindset told us that adding was actually complexity, and I don't actually think that it is today. So my view has shifted. My beliefs have changed over the years.
Well, I'd love to get into that a little bit more, because we started off in a place that's a little bit different than many of my guests. Many of my guests are talking about, we were hitting this growth ceiling, right? We're hitting these pains. And you actually said it wasn't so much that we were experiencing pain. It was just that our appetite to do something bigger increased. Like, we saw that we could have more impact if we decided to do some of these things that we initially thought would be undesirable, with adding team members and what you thought might be complexity. So yeah, let's unpack that a little bit more. Help all of us understand how growth doesn't have to equal more complexity.
Yeah, well, so the belief that I had was, as I mentioned, right, you start hiring more team members, full-time contract or whatever it might be. In our case, our business model is we work with consultants and small consulting firm owners, right, as you mentioned earlier on, to help them to grow their and scale their businesses and do so very profitably. But in the early days, it was myself and Sam who were doing all the interaction with our clients. And so what we thought was, if we start hiring coaches and additional team members, isn't that going to cause all kinds of issues? Like, they're not the same as us. How's that going to work? How will we make sure that clients get great results? And so that kind of had us backing off a little bit, going to that next level of really starting to develop a framework and quote unquote kind of certify our coaches and all that. But when we started to see that really, in order to get to that next level, we needed to take a leap. We needed to trust and to try something. Worst case scenario would be that we'd have to make some adjustments. And so what we really started to look at was, how can we ensure that our clients get not only the same level of results they would get if it was myself or Sam working directly with them, but they can even get better results? Because if it's just us, right, we're not going to have the capacity to work as closely as we'd like to with clients, right, unless we charged significantly higher fees. But our goal and our model is to help more and more people. So what we did is we made sure that we documented as much as we could about how we create results. And that led to developing what we call the consulting success framework. And that led to bringing in people that understand, how do you teach these concepts and how do you train on these concepts, and how do we make sure that we have, the SOPs and all the different aspects that, again, with the end client in mind, we wanted to really get all that in place. Once we had that, then it was actually pretty easy to go ahead and find people, because most of our initial coaches have either been past clients of ours, they've gone through our program, they're active consulting business owners themselves, or they're people that we've known, they've been in our network, they've been following consulting success. And so once we were ready, we just kind of put out that call and said, hey, here's what we're looking to do. And we had a lot of people who showed interest, and that led to finding our initial coaches, and built up from there. Today we're at 10 or 11 coaches, and they've all kind of gone through the consulting success framework training, and they're able to do just as good of a job, if not better than we can, working with our clients. And now that allows us to help a lot more people at one time.
I want to talk a little bit more about what you've done, but try to apply it across different business types.
Sure.
Because it's not just consulting success types of businesses that this would work for, but what you and Sam did was get really clear about what success looks like. How do you take a client from A to B to C all the way down to wherever they needed to be for success, so that you could then hand that off more readily or more easily to a set of certified coaches, right?
Correct. That's
so
right.
Whether it's a home service business of some sort, or a professional service business, or a marketing firm, the principles are the same. You all need to understand, what does it take to move a client, a patient, a customer from the initial point of sale to a success. And if you understand what that work looks like, how to break it down, how to hire to it, how to train to it, now you can actually hand it off to somebody. And it sounds like you started off thinking that would be really hard to certify other people to do this the way we can. But now you found that once you put in the work to outline all of that and put it in a form where you could teach it to somebody else and give them those responsibilities, now your ability to impact lots of people went way up. So I think that's an important key that I just wanted to pull out of what you said.
What I would probably add to that too, Brett, is my observation of kind of going through this, ourselves over the years, is that because we didn't have the kind of the plan in place, we didn't think through what is the best case scenario, what is the worst case scenario, how do we make sure that we get closer to that best case scenario, and not just in our minds kind of thinking through it or talking about, but actually putting it down on paper, getting a plan in place, getting those details in order. All the stuff that maybe seemed a little bit daunting or scary or gave us reason for pause or hesitation, once we actually got that all documented and became very clear on what do those different scenarios look like, made us feel much more confident to say, okay, let's take that first step. And I'll tell you, we were prepared for some potential kind of blowback or issues to come up when we kind of shifted our model from what we were doing before to what we're doing today. But we didn't have any blowback. There was actually no, there was zero issues. It doesn't mean that there's never issues. Things always pop up, as in any business. But the expectation that we had that this probably wouldn't be a smooth shift was actually not the case, and it was much smoother than we expected. And I think that goes back to just the preparation and the thought that we gave to it. Writing things down, really getting all that in order, allowed us to make that leap, and it worked out better. So I'd say to anyone who's in a place right now where you think maybe your current model isn't serving you as well as you'd like it to, maybe or you have some ideas of something else that you'd like to work towards, but you're not trying it. Think through, what are all those different pieces? What's the best case scenario, worst case scenario? How do you plan for if something were to go wrong? That's going to probably make you feel much more confident to at least try something out, see how it goes. And you might be pleasantly surprised, as we were, about the value and benefit of making that shift.
I think it's hard for a lot of us, Michael, as founders. We have so much of our identity or the value of the business wrapped up in ourselves. And we think, man, this works because I'm part of it. But what you and Sam did, you sort of demystified the work. It wasn't just in your head and in your talent anymore. It was, here's what successfully leading clients through this work looks like. Now we can actually hire somebody to take that and do it. And it sounds simple. I guess in actuality, it wasn't like super difficult work, but it did take work, and it took intentional effort to put that all together. But now that you've done it, you're serving more and more clients successfully than you ever could have, just you and Sam. All right, well, that's super helpful. Let's talk about other lessons that you've been learning as you are scaling your 7-figure business. What would you say are some of let's talk about some mindsets for a minute. I think you talked about one indirectly around, it doesn't have to be me or Sam involved in everything. There's a mindset piece there that you guys overcame. Are there other mindsets that you've come across that you had to make a shift on in order to enable you to keep growing?
Yeah. So even just the one that you mentioned, right, around kind of that idea of delegation, I view that as an ongoing process.
Mm.
So even though when we kind of, go back many years, it was maybe 3 or 4 of us. Today we're 19 or 20 people, and I'm still even myself and other team members as well. We're still going through this process of thinking through what can I shed? What am I doing right now that I shouldn't be doing? Still thinking through that balance of continuing to hire, but doing so in a profitable way, right? We're a bootstrap company, and while we're very profitable and we've been growing year over year, I never want us to try and do something so big that it could hurt us. Like, so we need to be thinking, in my mind, strategically about how do we make smart investments that do allow the business to grow, that still support the values of the company, and shift, areas that I'm involved in, or maybe that Sam's in, or another team member might be in, into or over to somebody else, but do it very thoughtfully. It's we're not just all about let's just add more people and spend more money and hope that things work out. We want to be very intentional about how we grow and thinking through, is this the right person to bring on? Is this the right time to bring that person on? What is the value that person will create? How will that person really help the business to grow? Is there an alternative to doing that? And so we try and be thoughtful about all these pieces. And I'm just kind of sharing this to say that even at this point today, I'm still constantly reevaluating where I'm spending my time and asking myself, is this the best use of my time? And maybe just one very kind of tactical, hopefully practical tip for everyone is I have a document online that I add to, it's just like a little list. And every time I'm spending my time on something, and if I think to myself, this may not be the best use of my time, or this is something that I don't enjoy, or this is something that I definitely should be delegating, or maybe we should just stop doing, it gets added to that list. And then now I have something to talk to other team members about and come up with a plan around, so that I'm looking at it as a way to constantly, improve the business, because I can shift away from lower value creation things to higher value creation things. I can feel more energized and making sure that I'm spending time on stuff that gives me energy, as opposed to stuff that, really takes my energy away.
I love that as an ongoing practice of evaluating,
Yeah.
where am I aiming my energy? I got this precious life source energy, and when it's applied to the right things, it's amazing. There's a multiplying type of thing that happens.
Yeah.
When it's applied to my energy is applied to things that I'm not great at, or that I don't enjoy, or that somebody, a lower cost resource in my business could take, I'm literally stifling the growth of my business, or what could be possible if I'm doing too many of those things. So I love that. I heard one of our other guests previously talk about they were growing fast, and he basically said, if I'm still doing something 6 months later that I used to be doing, I'm not giving it away fast enough. He had a little time, I guess, a cadence around it, where he's like, if I'm still doing something today that I was doing 6 months ago, I'm hurting the growth of my business. I have to figure out how to be passing that off. And I like the practical example you gave of just a Google Doc of, here's my ongoing list of those aha moments. Like, I don't have to be doing this, or I shouldn't be doing this, or I don't like to be doing that. So really, really good. Thank you.
One point on that, Brett, if I can just add, because this is something that I have pretty strong beliefs around. I think when I have conversations with other entrepreneurs, and just like take the other entrepreneur that you just mentioned who has this own practice of like every 6 months shifting off, I'm personally a very big believer in the idea of there's no one way or right way to do something. So somebody might be high growth, like have a system, let's shift things off all the time. And that might be the best system and best approach for them. But I'll tell you, I talk to a lot of other successful consultants and entrepreneurs, and through our podcast, the Consulting Success podcast, talk to some very successful consultants that are running much larger firms, and some of them will still spend a good portion of their own work time doing delivery and doing work like with clients because they enjoy it. And then I'll talk to others who say, no, like my whole goal was to shift away from doing any client delivery as quickly as possible, and I should only be doing strategy and business development. And so my whole thing is, there's no one way. I think each of us, because as you said, right, very accurately, it's our life. That's like the time that we have, that's that one most precious asset that we can never create more of. So optimize for what gives you the greatest satisfaction, the greatest fulfillment, supports your values and what you want to create long term. And that's kind of unique to each individual person. I believe that if you get clear on that, then you're setting yourself up for really great success.
I love that. I just want to give one more, I guess, plus one to that. One of our longtime elite community members has a personal injury law firm, and back when I first knew them, they were doing 3.5 million or something like that, and the owner was doing all the trial litigation. Any cases that went to trial, he was doing that, and he loves doing that. Well, now they've since 5x their business. They're doing tens of millions of dollars, and he doesn't have to try any cases, but he absolutely loves it. So it's almost like a vacation. One or two cases a year. He knows, I want to plan in a couple of weeks of trial litigation. Like, I want to do that. I love it. So yeah, I think you're right. There's not a one size fits all on that, but the principle is our business cannot outgrow what we're able to lead and develop in our team. And if we hold on to all of those core pieces of value delivery, then we've just capped what our business can do.
Yeah.
But as we build a team who can take some of those pieces as much as we want to delegate, then the impact can grow beyond what we can do ourselves or with our co-founders. So good stuff. Let's talk about, you went from, maybe you still have a lot of 1099s, but I know at one point it was just a few of you and mostly you and your cousin and then some 1099 support. But now it sounds like you're building out the team. You've hired some people, maybe as an employee instead of just 1099s. What have you learned about hiring and getting the right people in place that might be of use to some of our listeners?
Sure. So two ideas come to my mind that hopefully will be of interest or value to people. The first is just how I personally view the idea of building a team and how my view has changed. So going back many years, again, I viewed hiring people and managing people more with the mindset of, this is complexity and this also is an expense, right? It takes money kind of out of my pocket. Yes, I know the idea of being able to create more value, but I viewed it a bit more, call it transactional or on the expense side. And it wasn't something that we were actively doing very much of. Today, the way I view building the team, not only do I see the direct correlation to achieving greater growth and making a greater impact on our clients, but to me, I'm actually really excited about the idea of building a team, because we're building people. Like we're supporting great people. So we have the opportunity to work with great people. We have the opportunity to pay those people really well and above, average kind of market rates, and to find ways to compensate them and to have them participate in our growth. So as the company becomes more successful, they get to also benefit from that. I mean, to me, it just feels really nice. And I didn't, if I went back in time, I don't think that idea would have made me excited. Today, it actually makes me excited, because I feel like, well, if we can grow as a company and our team gets to also grow as like essentially, if everybody is growing, our clients are growing, our team is growing, our company is growing, I'm growing personally, like all of these things together, that's just such a beautiful thing that kind of gets me excited. And so when now I think about hiring somebody, it's like, okay, that's going to be an extra whatever, tens of thousands of dollars or whatever that number looks like. It's actually a positive, not a negative. It's not something that I shy away from. It's something that I actually lean into and go, okay, of course it has to make sense. It has to line up with the goals of the business. We have to see a path to greater, value creation in terms of direct revenue or brand building or whatever our goals are. But if we can see that, then great. The second thing, and this is really, I mean, there's a lot that I've learned from you over the years, Brett, and from the elite entrepreneurs community, being a part of that. Now, I guess a few years back, but you guys really taught us about the value of the vision and and the mission and the values. So if I hit the rewind button, the way I used to look at a lot of those is that's for larger companies. They have that. We're a smaller business. We don't we know what we want to do, but going through that initial kind of that exercise on what is our mission, what are our values. Like I'm just in the office here right now, and we have this printed out like as a canvas, and we send that to our team members, and so it's on the wall. So it's on our website. Those are things that we live by. We filter our decisions about what we're going to do and why we're going to do it based on our values. And we know it's not necessarily set in stone. We'll update those as time goes on, and those will evolve. But getting really clear on those things has been so important. And as it relates to hiring specifically, I can think of at least 2 or 3 team members, just even in the recent kind of period, who specifically said the reason that I applied to work at your company, the reason I left a larger organization to come and join, a smaller organization, is because of your values, because of what you stand for, because of what you've communicated. And so when we create job descriptions, right, and this because this kind of came from your world, we lead with our values. The job description itself takes a bit of a back seat to making sure that we're really communicating what is the company all about. Because if somebody doesn't align or doesn't resonate with our beliefs or our values or what we view as being important, what our whole mission is, then the job description by itself doesn't even matter. So that has been very important for us. It continues to be very important for us. And I would just, in terms of anyone thinking about hiring, we hire, essentially to our values, and we communicate our values. We try and communicate our story very, very clearly. If people go to consultingsuccess.com and our story page, which is essentially our about page, we have a 11.5-minute video that we had created several years back that talks about our story, not about just the company, but about our, Sam, who's my cousin, our fathers of twins, about our grandparents and our parents and how we got to where we are, the ups and downs. And that's the kind of stuff that people always comment on. They don't want to just work with or work for or be advised by a company. They want to know who the people are behind that company and what those people believe. So that's stuff that is always at the forefront for us.
Well, I appreciate you jumping into that a little bit because, I geek out on that stuff to begin with. But I think when we can go as business owners from the mindset of, more employees equals more headaches, to a place that you were describing of, wow, I actually get to build something that develops these people, that helps them to reach potential that maybe they haven't even thought about before, right? I'm like unlocking potential and helping them achieve greater heights as they help us do this thing together in our business. That's kind of cool when you can wake up to that change in our thinking around people, from being just expenses and more headaches and drama, to when I do it right, to aligning or gathering a group of people together who are all excited about this cause that we're up to together, who share beliefs and values, and we're going to come together and work in a way that creates tremendous value. That's fun. And it was fun for me to hear you talk about that transition in yourself. So as a last thing, and we need to wrap up, and maybe it'll be hard for you to put a finger on this. I don't know if you can. Is there anything in particular you could point back to that helped you go from what I'll call, more traditional mindset around adding team, and that's complexity and expense, to the mindset that you have now, which was a beautiful contrast. But how did you get from A to B? Where was the transition in that?
First was really getting clear about what is the impact that we want to have. What does success look like? And in our case, it was continuing to help more people achieve great success by growing and scaling their consulting businesses. And so we couldn't do that in the way that we envisioned or the way that we wanted to. We wouldn't be able to have the level of impact with our old model. And so that was one big thing for us. The other is what I've been able to enjoy over the last, call it, couple of years, and it continues to get better and better, which is that by building team, what that's actually doing is it's freeing me up. So I can, when I was down in Arizona, giving a talk at your event, and being away for a few days, the business runs just fine. If I'm away with my family traveling for a few weeks, even the business runs, and it doesn't require me. It doesn't mean that I'm not necessarily checking some emails or interacting here and there with the team. But the business is now at a place where I don't need to be involved in every aspect. I don't have to even be involved in the day to day. And we have such a great team that they can run it. And so that to me is another kind of driver of why we create a business that, again, it could give us a lot more freedom and flexibility to not to necessarily remove ourselves from the business, but to really be able to choose, how do we want to interact with the business? Where do we want to spend our time on, and where do we not want to spend our time on? And so that is, I think, the other big driver behind deciding, yes, this is the model that we want to go with.
Well, I heard what I think are the two things you mentioned. One was we got so clear about what we wanted to create. And that clarity drove enough excitement for us to change what we were doing. Like, that vision was bigger than what we had currently created. So we knew we needed to change something there. And then as you got involved with building team and realized that allowed you to have more of that time, freedom, flexibility, whatever you want to call it, that I think many of us start a business thinking that that's the nirvanas, that we're just going to be able to have all this time. But you started to taste what it was like to have people, great people, taking things and you feeling probably less weight on your shoulders and more ability to go do something else. And that kind of turned you on to this team building thing even more. So anyway, that was great. Michael, I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
Yeah.
We better wrap it up. Thank you so much for being our guest today and sharing some of your real insights into your own journey as you've made transitions in your business. How would people learn more about Consulting Success, check out your podcast, connect with you on social if they wanted to do that?
Sure. Yeah. So consultingsuccess.com is home to kind of everything that we put out, lots of free resources and information on some of the different programs that we have as well. You can find us on YouTube. If you just type in Consulting Success, you'll find us there. There's the Consulting Success podcast on Spotify, Apple, all those places. And then if you want to connect with me personally, LinkedIn is probably the best place. And if you can put a little note in to let me know that you are coming from the podcast here, that would be great. And happy to connect with people there.
All right. Very good. Well, Michael, appreciate all you do to help others learn and grow in their own entrepreneurial journey. We've certainly enjoyed having you as part of our podcast today.
Thanks so much, Brett. Okay.
For everybody out there, please share, do all those things that help us put this in front of as many seven-figure business owners as possible, especially any of your consulting friends. This is a unique opportunity to find and connect with the absolute best when it comes to helping consulting firms figure out how to grow their practices. So please do all that and tune in next time for another great episode. Thanks for now.
You've been listening to the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Brett Gilliland. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You may also want to visit our website, eliteentrepreneurspodcast.com, to find additional resources to grow your business from 7 figures to 10 million and beyond.